Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, have CM Punk's AEW debut plans been revealed?
WWE Raw plans have been torn up after a positive COVID test.
We've got another example of AEW's long-term booking philosophy.
And has Braun Strowman's next big career move been revealed? I'm Adam Nicholas.
And I'm Andy Murray.
And this go on, you take it.
It's the news.
Yeah,
there we go. No one can do what Adam Wilborn can do, so why even bother trying? Let's kick this thing off by talking about CM Punk, a guy we never talk about. Certainly not over the past week or so. But we've got a new report here from Bodyslam.net's Cassidy Haynes, who broke the Daniel Bryan story to AEW last week, and a bunch of other stuff as well. Loads of stuff coming out of that site over the past 7 days or so. It was Fightful Select, of course, who first broke the CM Punk story. But it sounds very much like AEW wants to have CM Punk in the house for one of its free upcoming Chicago shows in September. Now that makes all the sense in the world. CM Punk is from Chicago. There you go. Hometown pop. It's such easy stuff, isn't it? The hometown pop. But Haynes describes the situation as a matter of when rather than if. At the moment, there's a lot of signs pointing towards CM Punk going to AEW, isn't there? Even though it's not officially confirmed and everything else. There's Twitter followers. People are going back and forth. Living Colour are getting involved. It's great stuff. You love to see it. But the free shows in Chicago, of course, are the 1st of September episode of Dynamite, the 3rd of September episode of Rampage, and of course, All Out would be the big one on the Sunday, on the 5th of September, the big pay-per-view. Now, if this would be his first appearance in AEW, the pop is going to be ridiculous. And one of the greatest pops of this era of wrestling, I think, if CM Punk shows up for the first time in 7.5 years in his home bloody town for a brand new company. It would be absurd. You might have to shut the whole... You won't have ears left. They will fall clean off your head if you're in that building. But it's interesting to think about. Getting him in for those shows, it's an open goal. It's too easy. What do you reckon, Adam Wilborn? Nicholas?
Oh, I've been promoted. I've been on here a couple of minutes and I've already been promoted to Wilborn status. I love this. Well, Andy, I was trying to come up with a clever name for you there, but I'm just going to... Andy from Toy Story. Well, Andy from Toy Story. I have to say, man, I don't know if the pop in Chicago would quite beat the enormous pop that he got turning up on an episode of WWE Backstage.
Of course, how could I forget the biggest pro wrestling return?
You've let it go out of your head far too quickly here, but yes, I think the only thing I really have to add to this is I'm sure everybody's very excited about it, and it seems like the time, Andy Murray, even though I'm not going to watch, is clobbering time for big old Punk to return to the ring. However, let's talk about some, not returns, but some debuts, which then led to some disasters, which then lead us kind of to our next news story. Now, as you will recall, Karrion Kross obviously debuted the other week, went up against Jeff Hardy, and it didn't quite go the way you might have imagined for Karrion Kross. And now you think, well, he and Jeff Hardy are probably going into a feud and it's going to be great. Well, unfortunately, maybe not, because as it turns out, Jeff Hardy has tested positive for COVID-19 in a very untimely fashion. This wasn't announced by WWE though, as is per the company's policy of not mentioning these cases when they happen, but it was mentioned by Record Bar in Missouri, who basically announced it over Facebook. Jeff Hardy was set to do a meet and greet over there at their venue, but unfortunately that had to be cancelled. I'll just take a little excerpt from what they said. The event with Jeff Hardy take place on Monday, July 26, 2021 at Record Bar in Kansas City will have to be postponed to a later date. Hardy has tested positive for COVID this morning and will have to quarantine for the next 2 weeks and will not be participating in any live events. Now obviously that makes things a bit complicated for WWE, who probably had plans in place, and according to Mike Johnson from PW Insider, that indeed was the case. Jeff Hardy and Karrion Kross were supposed to have a rematch on tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw. No word yet on whether they're going to be, or whether there are any plans for changes or whatever, but Andy Murray, not exactly ideal. Listen, obviously we wish Jeff Hardy the best because nobody wants to get COVID, but in terms of what this means for WWE in the bigger picture, it's not great, is it?
Yeah, tearing up the plans for Raw. Not the entire show, obviously, just the small part that would involve these two guys. Best wishes to Jeff. Hope he hasn't got a bad case of it. Hopefully he's asymptomatic and he'll be absolutely fine and everything else. But Karrion Kross, can you imagine if they'd booked him to get his win back on this week's episode of Raw? And it's like, hey, guess what, pal? That's not happening. Next, Karrion Kross will get injured or something and it'll never happen. He's had a rough time of it, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, cancelling a meet and greet when someone says a positive, it makes all the sense in the world. What are you going to do? Hey, Jeff, can you breathe on me a little bit? Can you lick my tongue or something? Yeah, get right in there. Obviously, the right thing's been done here, and best wishes again to Jeff. I almost called him Jeff Jarrett. I love Jeff Jarrett.
Best wishes to him too, as well, though.
Yeah, get all the names wrong on today's wrestling news. Anyway, let's move over to AEW for a little bit here. We're gonna cover a report from Fightful Select. This week on Dynamite, on Fight for the Fallen episode of Dynamite, we have Santana and Ortiz versus FTR. And according to Fightful Select, this has been kind of listed internally. It's been planned for this specific show in Charlotte, North Carolina since mid-May. So this was always the goal that they were going to try and work towards, and they've worked towards that. Last week we had it was like a press conference thing. They cut it short, but then they aired the full version on YouTube, trimmed it down a little bit. So it's basically been going on since before Double or Nothing, which is when we saw them have like a brawl in a nightclub. These two tag teams with Conan dropping rap music. It was quality. But there's some other notes on this situation as well, talking about how in early 2020 AEW had a lot of long-term plans, some of which did fall afoul of the COVID-19 pandemic. Others, however, they were able to pull off regardless. So some plans were changed, some were followed through on, and on top of this, Fightful Select have heard of one big singles program that AEW has planned going into the fall. So nothing game-changing, nothing revelatory here, just a little bit of a light to shine on a bit of medium to long-term booking.
Nice to see that they actually can carry through with their plans, because I know we would probably joke about WWE not having many plans further than their arm at this point, but obviously everybody's had to deal with the complications that have come with the global pandemic, and it's nice to see, for a change, things working out the way a company had planned as well, because we've seen plenty of them which haven't made it over the hurdle, unfortunately. But good news, that is. Good news indeed. Speaking of a man I would not imagine could get over many hurdles given the size of him, let's talk about Braun Strowman, shall we? Because that dude is huge and that dude is scary as hell. And could you imagine, Andy Murray, going one-on-one with Braun Strowman?
Oh, no.
In a bare-knuckle boxing fight, or bare-knuckle fight in general, would just be no good for me. But apparently, if you are to believe the way the world works, that might be a possibility for Braun's future, because there was a picture posted on a bare-knuckle fighting championships Twitter the other day of Braun Strowman at one of their events, and it was captioned with the following: "Next BKFC signee?" And I just look at the size of him in this picture. He's so huge. Bro, I don't know who's got bigger. The only person I think off the top of my head with massive hands that maybe wouldn't have the muscle would be Mickey Mouse, and I'd rather get punched by Mickey Mouse than Braun Strowman, Andy Murray. I genuinely would. However, of course, it is just a bit of, it could just be a bit of fun, this picture of giant Braun at this event, because let's face it, we know that according to reports from the Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer, that the WWE typically are also interested in signing Braun Strowman, the man they had, who have obviously released, but of course AEW have been very busy. Of course, Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, everybody's panicking over there. They want the big names and they don't want to see someone like Braun, I would imagine, go along there. So they may, Bare Knuckle Fight Championship may, have some stiff competition from WWE. Of course, Braun was released on June the 2nd along with a bunch of others, and interestingly, I guess if he doesn't end up signing with WWE, he would be available to do other things from August the 31st. So there's a bit of not a rush, but the clock is certainly ticking. And could you see him, Andy Murray, knocking people out in the bare knuckle box? I keep saying boxing fighting championship.
Well, a lot of people have been really cynical about this and going, he's 37, he's never had any combat sport. What are you talking about? He's never had any combat sport experience before. The man went undefeated on Raw Underground, all right? If that doesn't qualify as high-level mixed martial arts experience, I don't know what does. But yes, Braun is looking absolutely gigantic. He's been working out, clearly eating his chicken and broccoli and brown rice since he left WWE. You love to see that, genuinely. Whatever whatever he does next. I hope it's the right move for him, and I hope he's happy, and I hope he's successful and great, and everything is shiny, roses, and okay. Twitter questions.
Hey, it's not like a news that me and you do to be a total and utter car crash, is it?
No, we've never watched a train wreck or participated in one in our entire lives. First question comes to us from Mark Smith, who asks the following.
Hello, Mark.
Morning, legends. Do you reckon Vince McMahon will try to throw mega money at CM Punk and Daniel Bryan to keep them away from WWE, and do you think they will take it? Going to give you the floor here, Adam Nicholas, but my inclination would be that ship has probably already sailed.
The ship, the plane, the bus, the small tugboat that gets them from one side of the river to the other, they have all gone. They've all gone, unfortunately. I don't think that's going to happen. And even if Vince McMahon could, maybe CM Punk's the one out of those two, if you are, obviously, if the word on the street is to be believed, the one that he might be able to snag. And even then, why would Punk do that to himself when he could go to a company like AEW, who I assume are going to let him do things that he actually wants to do? So money's good, but happiness is probably more important. I can't say it personally, but stranger things have happened, certainly, even just in the last 18 months, so who knows?
Yeah, so what we're saying is that CM Punk is going to Shikara. Next question here is from Timothy Banks. We can laugh at Shikara now that Mike Quackenbush is a wrong'un. Timothy Banks asks the following, with allegedly, with the rumours that CM Punk has signed or is close to signing with AEW, should they bring in AJ Lee, as well? How awesome would it be to see her versus Britt Baker, Hikaru Shida, Tai Conti, etc., etc.? I mean, I've always got the impression that AJ has just moved on from wrestling and is happy and everything else, and she doesn't need to scratch that itch in her life. But my God, that'd be a tremendous pickup as well, wouldn't it?
I think this is like a brilliant example of someone who's left the world of wrestling and gone on to be successful in a ton of other ways. Like, she's obviously done tons of writing, involved with comics and stuff, and like, the woman has just like easily transitioned out of wrestling and has never been aware of it. And then you remember, she was actually also an amazing wrestler, like a really great wrestler who was trying to do things in WWE that the company weren't even ready to do at that time, which now they've since tried to take loads of credit for in the future. I would happily see her wrestle again. I would happily see her wrestle in AEW against any of those names you've listed. Although, I just want her to do whatever makes her happy. And if wrestling's that thing, cool. And if doing all the other things that she's doing is indeed the thing, I'd rather see her do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Find your happiness and live your life. But I would, as a fan, as a little nerdy fan, like to see AJ back at some point.
100%.
Speaking of things I'd like to see, here's our final question. It comes from Steve Faso, who asks the following. Hey! With Roman and Cena at SummerSlam 99% happening, and NBC Universal owning Peacock, and the Fast and the Furious franchise, any chance Vin Diesel comes out after Cena loses and sets up the Bloodline versus the Toretto family at Survivor Series?
I mean,
what do you reckon?
I didn't realise I needed this until today. Yes. Give me all of this. This is absolutely ridiculous. And it sounds like something WWE do in a heartbeat. I mean, if we're being sensible, who wants to do that? It probably won't happen. But genuinely, why the hell not at this point? Why the hell not, Andy Murray? Roman Reigns, one of the best things that's happening on WWE at the moment. Let's just completely press the self-destruct button on it. For the sake of Fast and Furious versus Dwayne Johnson or whatever you want to call it.
The only way I'll be up for this is if Ludacris appears to rap the Toretto family to the ring.
Yeah.
But it kind of works out. Don't Vin Diesel and The Rock have some kind of beef? Or like, Vin Diesel did he get really upset when The Rock left Fast and the Furious or something? Is that a thing?
Listen, it's all about family, Andy Murray. That's all I know. I've seen the memes. I've seen a lot of the films, not the most recent ones. It's all about family, Andy Murray. And The Rock betrayed the Toretto family.
And just like you, Adam Nicholas, I don't have friends. I have family. Anyway, let's wrap things up today. And finally, of course, is Adam Nicholas is going to do a dance.
Oh, fantastic. I didn't realise that was on the agenda. I'm only joking. I came prepared. Who got the money?
Look at that. Look at that. No one else. No one else would have done that.
Look at me go.
All right, we got to end this piece of crap. You can follow us on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. You can find Adam Nicholas on Twitter at
The Dancing Legend. You can also find Andy Murray on Twitter
at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for happy birthday to my favourite member of Evolution, Mark Jindrak. There we go. Bye.
Brilliant. Goodbye and happy birthday, Mark.